Hello, hello, hello. So, a couple of quick things. Our message today is geared towards dads, towards men who are dads in recovery. If you're a dad in recovery, or if you have a dad and he's in recovery, or if you have a husband and he's a dad and he's in recovery, something out of this message may tweak for him or for you. And wow, today's my birthday, and I'm thinking before this call and several times through the day, what do I have? What do I have to be grateful for? And the job of being a dad has been probably the biggest motivator in my life when I think of it. When I sobered up some almost 44 years ago, my daughter, my first child, was 6 months old. December 1st, 1980, and she was 6 months old, and she was the deal. She was like, holy shit, I'm in such big trouble here. I'm a father, and I have no friggin' idea what to do. I was married. I had no idea what to do in a relationship. I was so unprepared for any of that, and I suspect that many men are in the same boat. We I was an alcoholic since I was 15. I started drinking alcoholically before that, but full blown from 15, and so I wasn't prepared. I also didn't have a lot of role models. My family wasn't the best role model of a dad. I love my dad for sure, and he did the best he could with the tools that he had, and he was a flying ace in the Second World War, and I mean, could you imagine he was over there for 3 or 4 years, and just a kid, right? And so I think my dad did the best he could, but I wasn't prepared. And so Emily was born in July 1st, 1980, and I was like, holy shit. And Linda and I just gotten married, and it was all about, all of it was around the fact that we were going to have a child, and my reaction, I remember when she got pregnant, was, wow, how did that happen? And which tells you how prepared I was. So being a dad has been kind of the motivator in my life, and around business, and even though I think there's lots of times in my life I was confused about where my time was best spent. I could have spent a lot more time, I think, with my kids. I really do, but it certainly wasn't. And as my kids got older, and Linda and I got divorced, and another lady appeared, and we get married, and I had a third child, second son, a third child, and all of that was motivators. And I think that again, when I had three, I was like really ill prepared. I had teenagers, and I had no idea how to be a dad, and I really had to look. I joined a men's group. A lot of the men in the group were successful dads, and I was learning how to be a dad on kind of on the fly, and kind of doing the best I can. So my kids never saw me drink or use, and although I mean I think as time went on, I will call it my drug of choice changed. Even in recovery, I did lots of things to avoid being present, and to avoid feeling, and so getting well for men in recovery can sometimes take a long time. And I would say, I'm still a work in progress, and in that area. But my kids, today, the thing I'm the most grateful for is my relationship with my kids. I do my very best not to give advice, and I talk to them regularly, but just to listen, and they have their lives. They have families. Two of my kids are married with kids, and my third, the youngest one is working overseas and has done very, very well. They've all done well, and and I'm just happy. I'm so pleased to be, you know, so blessed as a dad, and so my mission is to help men. Something we don't talk about a lot. We don't talk about it in the rooms in recovery that much. To help men to rebuild relationships with their kids and their families. Even if we've separated or divorced, or sometimes we're on our third or fourth wife, and we're not masters of relationship often, and we do have a tendency to screw things up, and the relationship with number one, two, or three may not be healthy or even existent. So my job is to help men to rebuild those old relationships, and recognize that having a relationship with mom is key in having a relationship with the kids. It's just key. I don't care what she's done or hasn't done. You know, Also, a lot of times men have very bad relationships with their own dads. They're still angry at dad, and so we work on that. And there's so many pieces to this. But we can be delusional. Men, think that the most important thing is the finances, and maybe the most important thing is actually time together with our kids. And I look back and I think, boy, I sure could have spent a lot more time with my kids, and still things have worked out pretty well. But you know I was prepared for business as well, and so I made up for my lack of preparation by a lot of time I spent at work. But I brought my kids to work. They were part of it. I brought them to meetings. I brought them, they were part of what was going on, and we traveled and did lots of things together over the years. And so, if you're a dad in recovery, and you're, you know, wanting to rebuild the relationships, wanting to have some benchmarks, yeah, that was a big thing for me too. And it was in the '90s when my kids were just in their early teens and stuff, and I didn't know, I didn't have any benchmark on how to be a good dad. I didn't, what did that look like, and the women in my life who my exes, I loved them, and they wanted me to be a good dad, but they didn't know really. They knew how to be good moms, and they were, and they are. But I, I wasn't. I had to find men, and that were willing to talk about the job, and of being a good dad, and so that's my job. This is, if I can help other men and other families to grow together. Lots of us, like, I was terrified my kids were going to be addicts and alcoholics like me, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It seems to be that this addiction thing is genetic, and I don't know whether it's genetic or environmental. I don't know. I don't think they've ever really figured that out, but it's often our kids follow the path pretty closely. So I wanted to be able to be there for them if that was going to happen, and it did happen. And I have kids in recovery, and successful in recovery, recovered. you know. So if you're in that boat and you're thinking, I need to learn, I need to be exposed to the information so I can be a better dad. Let's talk. I'm going to run a course coming up here in October, and I want you to be part of it, and we'll talk. I mean, not everybody's going to be qualified for the course, and there's some things that we'll go over, and see if you are or not. But if you've got kids and you want to have a stronger relationship with them, if you're up at night wondering, where they are, or you don't feel like you're trusted in that relationship, by their mom or by them, or let's work together to build that. Kids need their dad, period, full stop. Kids need their dad, and lots of times we're so full of guilt and shame and fear and anger, that we can't kind of bridge the gap, and get back and be close with our kids. And they're always changing too. I mean, the kids that we knew when they were 8 and 7 and 6 years old are not the same kids when they're 13, 14, and 15. And we've got to stay connected because we just kind of look at them and wonder who the hell they are. So I'm reading this book. It's called The Boy Crisis. Wow. And, and a lot of it has to do with what it's like to be a boy in today's society, and for a child in today's society to be brought up, and so in the statistics of fatherless homes, it doesn't matter if you're not living in the house anymore. That's one thing. I tell this example often about a young man that I know that never really lived in the primary home with his daughter, but he called her every day, every single day, about 6:45, or quarter past, and every day he called her from the time she was about 2, and guess what? Like they have a great relationship, and she's 16 now, and he still calls her. you know, and they talk, and she knows that she's loved, and that's the thing, with kids that um, it's our presence that helps them to know that they're loved, our involvement, our interest that helps them know. So we'll talk about all that stuff. Okay, get in touch with me, and we'll talk about being the best dad in recovery. Hey, kids need their dad. That's it. And I've gotten just tons of birthday wishes today. It's fun, birthday before social media. Nobody knew it was your birthday. Now everybody knows, and that's fun. Okay, love you guys, and we'll talk soon. That's it. Cheers.